Spread the fire, feed the mind. Let's think about what today signifies and think about what's next for different players. So, as we sit right now, a historical moment is undergoing. Is that the right word? A historical moment is happening. My English bundles are running out. I need to go talk to somebody who's very, very British. So, let's unpack what I'm just saying. This is a historical moment for South Africa and perhaps even the continent. A liberation movement, the oldest liberation movement on the continent, has just dropped below 50%. What does that mean? It means they ain't ever going back. Once you drop below 50, pelile, petile, game over. What do I mean by that? It just, once that illusion is gone, you no longer have a dominant party state. So in political science, they talk about a concept of a dominant party state. A dominant party state is a state where one political party has been in charge, uninterrupted, for a very long period of time. And this has been true in South Africa for 30 years. But now we are entering into the era of coalitions. But before we discuss the coalitions and the dynamics and the leadership implications, what we just have to think about is the significance of that moment. It now means that the idea of the ANC ruling until Jesus comes back is over. Jesus came back at the conference. I don't know who at this, not the conference in this election. I don't know who Jesus is. Who's Jesus? Jesus Zuma. I don't know, guys. Let me not make jokes. But Jesus came back. Jesus came back. The ANC is not going to rule anymore, right? This right here is their Armageddon, right? So it's a critical moment because it means that that hold is gone now. And that hold being gone means that we enter into an era of competitive democracy. One of the reasons why democracy has not been working in South Africa is because when a dominant party state is dominant, the accountability mechanism doesn't actually work. What is the accountability mechanism? The way democracy works is that those who govern with the consent of the governed, and that consent is given through a vote. Right? So the idea is, if I'm performing poorly, you will take your vote and give it to someone else. And if I know that the voter can shop around and go to other political entities and give them their vote, what that means is that I will do my job. I will be accountable, I will be transparent, I will live up to my promises. When you are dominant, you realize that I'm going to win anyway. Regardless of whether I keep my promises, regardless of whether people steal money, all of that. So if I'm going to win anyway, why do I have to behave, right? So the breaking of the dominance, that breaking and going under 50%, where you need to work with other people to stay in power, it introduces competition, accountability, transparency, and it increases the voice of the voters. Because for a very long period of time, voters could be ignored. You throw a few t-shirts, you come around, you give them some KFC, they vote again, and you move on. Now you can't do that because the illusion that you are undefeatable is gone. The illusion that it's cold outside your organization is gone. All of that now is in the basket of history. Now the democracy begins in a new way. And this is how 2024 is 1994. Don't miss this moment in history. Don't miss this moment in history. History looks like any other day. History looks like Friday, 31 May. Nothing is going to be special about the day except for what has happened. But you have to be alive to the moment and have a sense of history. Okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing is that this is now going to be part of President Ramaphosa's legacy. It's going to be part of his legacy that he took the ANC from 57 to 42. And if those are the projections and they hold, that is going to be something that will follow him for the rest of his days. That he was the leader who actually gave up the ANC majority and created a new era. While some people may celebrate it within his own organization, that may create vulnerability for him. because you lost 15% of the vote share. So there may be some conversations which are now happening in his organization which he'll be uncomfortable with. But let's park him, the person, now and talk about the parties. The ANC is in a very difficult position. They are on 42% by the projections, 42%. So you need 8 plus 1 to rule, right? You need that number in the provinces, etc. So the 50 plus 1%, right, is what we're dealing with. So how do you get there? Here, look at what's happening when you think about, which I'm in Gauteng. I'm looking at the Gauteng numbers right now. They're sitting on 35% in Gauteng. DA is sitting on 29%. EFF is at 12. MK is at 10. Who do you make a deal with to get to your 50? Do you make a deal with the DA and further lose your credibility and further lose your vote share, but hold on for 5 more years? Or do you make a deal with the EFF and the MK and potentially shake the markets, potentially scare the international community? What do? It's a tough decision. And if you say you're not going to do business with MK in Gauteng, what do you do in KZN? Because there are certain provinces, provinces are all great, but some of them have a bigger economic impact and have got big demographics that affect the political game in South Africa. So provinces are not created equal in a sense. KwaZulu-Natal is a critical province in South Africa. As the ANC strategically, do you give that up? Do you make a deal where you can stay in some form of power there? Or do you become the opposition? Are they willing to do that? And how does that affect the national negotiation? Because at the national level, you're on 42. Then DA is next, then MK is next, and then EFF is next, and IFP doesn't have enough. Patriotic Alliance doesn't have enough. Are you then going to try to make a coalition with IFP, PA, Freedom Front Plus, Action SA, ACDP, UTM, ATM, and then go down the list till you get something? Maybe you do get to 50 plus 1, but that's fragile because one of those people walks and then it's over. Or are you going to, on the other hand, then make a deal with the DA, the continuity coalition? I call that the continuity coalition. It continues the status quo. So if you live in Khayelitsha, you live in Langa, you live in Soweto, you live in Tembisa, your life doesn't change. Nothing changes because it's continuity. Who likes continuity? Everybody who's winning in status quo loves continuity. If I'm winning, let us continue. But if I'm losing, I want change. So the continuity coalition keeps everything the same. They're going to say that they're going to change things, but the reality is continuity coalition keeps everything the same. So if the continuity coalition continues, what else will you see? You'll see more privatization of water, as we are seeing privatization of electricity, privatization of Transnet. You have to worry about that because when privatization happens of public goods, the price goes up, the quality goes down. Why? Because public goods don't respond to market forces in the way that other markets do, because they are run either by oligopolies or by monopolies. When you have a monopoly which is only accountable to shareholders and a monopoly that only exists to maximize shareholder interest, that monopoly will cut corners and not deliver services that benefit you. We've seen this in the United Kingdom with Thames Water. They have sewage in the water in London because they privatized their water company, and you would have thought that Thames Water will make the water clean and pristine. They just left it with sewage, but they kept giving shareholders value. You would rather have a public good in the hands of public representatives and the government. Why? Because you can hold the government accountable. You cannot hold a CEO accountable. A CEO accounts to shareholders, and as long as they're getting their money, they don't care that your water is sewage. That's the danger about privatization. The story they say is, if we do this thing, everyone will live in Cape Town. But the reality is most people will not live in the nice part of Cape Town. They'll live in Khayelitsha, in Langa, because they don't care about those areas, right? They really don't. Ask anybody who's from there. They'll tell you the reality. So continuity coalition is a dangerous coalition if you're not on the side where you are winning from the status quo. And many people would say that they're not winning from the status quo, but it's an option. If you do continuity coalition, it could hurt the party, the ANC. It could actually hurt also the DA, because they'll be viewed as having sold out by some people. Because you say that you're going to work against the ANC, now you want to make a deal with the ANC. Then there's another option here. And this, we can call this the coalition of the left coalition. That becomes ANC, MK, EFF. If they do this deal, they will be able to navigate a lot of the terrain that they need to navigate, right, in terms of to continue on their ideological agenda. But the markets will be nervous as a result of this. And that could affect the rand, and that could affect a variety of things. So it may very well be that President Ramaphosa may not find this attractive, but it's not necessarily up to him. It's not necessarily up to him, because all the deal makers will be trying to see what deal they can make, right? Or they could be, if they get enough votes in terms of these other small-anyana things, the small-anyana parties, then come together with the ANC and make an ANC small party coalition. If he skips DA, MK, and EFF, he may still be able to get to a governing coalition with the other smaller parties, but we'll see. That's option 3. So those are the 3 options, right? It's unlikely that the DA will be able to make an opposition coalition. They just don't have the numbers. The Moonshot Alliance Pact deal did not work. It only worked to neutralize Action SA. Action SA bought into the Moonshot Pact, UIM bought into the Moonshot Pact, and they basically campaigned as amplifiers for the Democratic Alliance, and that's why the Democratic Alliance is holding ground and was also able to attract a lot of funding. So in that way, Helen Zille outsmarted Herman Mashaba, outsmarted Neil de Beer, and was actually able to secure some longevity for the party. Let's talk about Mr. Ramaphosa, and then I'll end it there. There are some people who are saying that he'll step down. He doesn't want this drama. He doesn't want this having to deal with EFF, with MK, and all of that stuff. So it's a possibility. I don't think he'll step down. I think he'll try to make a deal, and try to make a deal that he thinks makes the most sense for him. He's going to be looking at his options. His deal makers are going to be talking about what deals he needs. But I think there's going to be a conversation within the ANC about whether or not he should go. There may be people saying, hey man, that's a big loss. You have to own it. You have to leave the party. And the leadership not of the party, not the party in totality, but the leadership. That's going to be something that could be an option. And people who think that they can do better will be now trying to see if they have enough support to orchestrate that kind of a move. So there may very well be a situation where within the next 2 years, we have a different ANC president and a different president of South Africa. It's possible. We've seen that coalitions introduce instability, so we are going into a period where there'll be a little bit of instability. I don't think it will be as bad as what happened in Johannesburg and in Ekurhuleni, because I think that the parties have kind of figured out how to talk to each other and how to make deals, and they're not going to come shouting at each other in this particular instance. So it's not going to be a president every year type of thing, but I don't think that there's not going to be an attempt. There's going to be an attempt within the ANC, in my opinion, to see if they can bring a stronger leader. And if MK goes back into ANC, they're going to request, I think, a new leader. And those would be their terms. I don't see them just going back in the sense of saying, we'll work with you, without asking for President Ramaphosa to leave. And he may very well do that. How will the markets respond? The markets will respond best to the continuity coalition, because that's the profit coalition, that's the privatization coalition. I think having free markets is good. I think free markets, you basically need some regulation. It needs to be a mixed market economy, similar to what you have in Germany. That's the model that I think is the most effective model. But I do not think that free market is good. And the market, the DA-ANC coalition, they will not be happy with the ANC-MK or ANC-EFF coalition. And they will definitely be most angry if, and that's where you'll see the rand being at risk, if MK, ANC, and EFF make a coalition. That will really affect the rand. But it's no longer in our hands as analysts or voters or whoever, whatever the case may be. Now the deal making has begun, and our role will be to try to understand what's happening in the deal making, see if we can get behind the scenes, see if we can get some insights, because we're on the floor, we're talking to these people, we're trying to do journalism. So we'll try to see if we can get you some of this information. If we get scoops, we'll tell you. So how do you stay notified? How do you stay abreast? It's a two-step process. You got to subscribe, fam. Then you got to press the notification thing and then if we get a scoop from anybody, you never know who I know, who I don't know. You never know who Sizwe is talking to, who he's not talking to. We connected. So SMWX, we're gonna give you the scoop. Stay tuned. Yeah.